Welcome everyone to Culture Chats. We're so honored that you have taken the time out of your day to be here with us. It means the world to us to help foster community, to help facilitate knowledge sharing, and to support all of you. My name is Nathan Hall, and if this is your first Culture Chat, we're so glad you could make it out. We know you could be anywhere right now, but you're here and we're grateful for that. These sessions are really meant to help us with our holistic professional development. And we often come from a racialized lens, so covering things from resume building, investing, mental health, physical health, all of these things that are needed for us to live successful lives and to build successful careers. So apart from these, we also have our check-ins. So 2 times a month, we have a virtual meetup group for racialized professionals, a space to provide, ask questions, share stories, offer support to each other, to network with each other. I'll drop a link in the chat here. There we go. If you're interested in signing up and learning more about those, we'd love to see you there. We also have a monthly newsletter. So if you want to stay up to date with the different things that we have going on, different events, helpful information, go ahead and subscribe. So today, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of us have been feeling depleted, tired, a little overwhelmed. So I wanted to bring in somebody with just a little bit of energy, just a little bit to help give us a boost. And I'm not just talking about energizing us, but also empowering us. So, too many of us feel like we don't have a voice, right? Or like our voice doesn't matter. Maybe our voice has been suppressed in the past. But what happens when we stop speaking up? What happens when we stop advocating for ourselves? What happens when we don't voice our needs and our desires, our aspirations? What happens when they'll get pushed to the sideline?
Yeah.
But to take it a step further, what happens when these individual experiences are now happening disproportionately within certain communities?
Right.
So to talk about these things, I had to reach out to someone special. She is a keynote speaker, a coach, helping individuals and teams to embrace self advocacy. She equips people with the tools to speak up, to recognize their worth, and to achieve their full potential. She's passionate in helping people increase visibility, enhance their influence, and expand their networks. She's a traveler, a foodie, a connector, and she is a source of boundless energy and enthusiasm. Everyone, please welcome Geralyn Gaines.
Amazing intro. Thanks so much, Nathan, and thanks for the opportunity to be on Culture Chats today. I'm really excited to chat with you. This is gonna be great.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. So why don't we kick things off and tell us, who are you? What is your story? How did you get here?
How did I get here? Well, first of all, thank you for the, like I said, wonderful introduction. I feel like you cover most of it, but I got here just through my own desire to drive my own life and to actively thrive. I think so many people are, like you said, in situations where their voice is either suppressed or they don't feel valued or they don't feel seen. And I want people to get out of their own way and be visible and to claim their space and recognize their worth and assert their value. So I got here just through, I had experiences in college where I was a Division I athlete at a PWI, private institution, and that was not a great fit for me. And I knew that the environment that I had to push out of that environment and self-advocate to transfer to the University of Michigan, which I did. And I was a very avid activist at the time. I was helping lead the charge for it was hashtag BBUM, being Black at the University of Michigan. It was a huge Twitter campaign at the height of Twitter where Black folks were able to share their positive and negative experiences that they were having at Michigan. And at the end of it, we drafted a list of 7 demands. And we were like, you have 7 demands in 7 days, University of Michigan. And on the list of 7 demands, we had a Trotter multicultural. So Trotter Multicultural Center is a landmark at the University of Michigan where the Black Student Union used to meet for mass meetings, Hispanic Students Association, things like that. and it was off campus. It was on White Frat Row. And we were like, hey, we need to have a safe space for people that look like us to commune. And we're like, this needs to be on Central Campus. It shouldn't be inconvenient for us to get together. This should be in the heart of campus. And now, a couple years later, they built a new Trotter Multicultural Center. It is smack dab in the middle of campus. And I have to say that I saw that self-advocacy was extremely helpful in getting the things that you want, but you need a community of people to drive that forward. Like, I wasn't driving hashtag BBUM on my own. It was the entire Black community. It also went viral. We were getting international attention. New York Times came down. I mean, it was a true push, and I felt very accomplished. And then after we graduated, I went to corporate America, where nobody cares about anything that I did at Michigan or my activism. And it necessarily, and so but I knew that, bringing that up wasn't necessarily the right venue, I guess I should say. Like, usually when you share things, you don't want it to fall on deaf ears. You want people to embrace what you're sharing. And I did not feel like that was an experience that I was going to have. And so I kept really quiet about self-advocacy for a while. Like, I'd grown up as an advocate, but I didn't think that me rocking the boat in my early career would have been advantageous for me. It probably would be more detrimental. But it was when George Floyd was murdered in 2020 that we had an opportunity as Black folks to have a forum to speak about how we truly feel as Black folks in corporate America and in just America in general. And in that situation, there was not going to be a forum for that. And I actively pushed for a crucial conversation so that we could all better connect. I mean, this was during COVID, right? So we're already at home, already feeling extremely isolated. And I was like, no, we need to create an environment where people like us that are negatively impacted by the events that are happening in the world can chat and keep it real. And so that was from 2020, I decided that I was never going to not self-advocate ever again. And when it got to the point where I started to see that my values were no longer aligning with the future of the business, it became very easy for me to decide that that was no longer the place for me. It took me a while to pivot, but I think when you realize what your values are, and if where you are right now doesn't align with those values, you have to actively seek out those opportunities. Okay, what do I love? What do I value? Do I want to be here? So I think that, just in my personal experiences as well as my professional experiences, I've seen how self-advocacy can truly work for you, especially when you have confidence, you are a good communicator, and you are surrounded by the right people.
Okay. So I want to just take a step back. Can we define self-advocacy? What does
Yeah.
this mean to you? How are
Yes.
you utilizing this term?
Yes. So self-advocacy, I've defined it just personally as keeping it G. So I know a lot of people, may not know what keeping it G means, but I mean, keeping it G is like keeping it 100, keeping it a buck. So keeping it G is all about being real, staying grounded, and true to yourself while upholding your values despite challenges. So that means showing up authentically you in all the spaces, right? It symbolizes integrity, resilience, and using your voice while encouraging others to find and amplify theirs. So I truly believe that when people know their strengths, they know their worth, they know their value, and they know how to actively articulate that in a way that is concise, direct, and respectful with the support of the people around them, that they will thrive in their personal and professional lives. So that's what I truly believe, that self-advocacy is keeping it G.
Okay, so you kind of said if, I have to have the support, I have to know my values, I have to be able to communicate it. So can you walk me through those various steps? If I'm starting out and I just feel all of these barriers, right?
Yeah,
How do I go about identifying my values? We'll start there. So it's like
yeah,
those values, you said you discovered your values and you realized they weren't in alignment. What
yeah.
is that process of really figuring out who am I? Like, what is it that I stand for? What is it that I want? Because so often, like you said, if I'm constantly being suppressed or I'm constantly code switching to fit into my environments, and one day we can wake up and be like, well, who am I? What is it that I actually want for myself? What is it that I want out of my life? So, what was your process to kind of figuring out what it is that you want?
Yeah, yeah. I think, and it's so easy to say like look inward, but you truly do have to spend time with yourself. Like when I realized that my values did not align, I'm like, okay, what is really important to me, right? I want to be respected. I want to be heard. I want to be seen. all these, I believe in X, I believe in Y. I think if you start looking inward, spend time with yourself. One thing that really helped me identify my value, well, I knew what my values were. I just feel like I've grown up as a very convicted person, knowing what's right, knowing what's wrong. But something that really helped propel me forward into these are my values and this is how I want to change my life was I did a big, bold vision. So when I was at my company, they brought in a company called Fast Forward Women. And it was like an 8-week course of professional development. But at the end of it, you had to write a big, bold vision. And a
Mm.
big, bold vision was the things that you wanted to accomplish in a year, but you had to speak about it as if it was already done. So I truly had to identify what I wanted my life to look like and then align my actions toward that. And when I tell you what, I did not think that I downplayed manifestation. I have a vision board right here. I've written things down in the past, but it was really that writing the as if it's already done and speaking about it in the past tense that really helped me drive that forward. So I think that if you're spending time inward, knowing what things that matter to you. Also, there are a bunch of different strength exercises. You can do Clifton strengths. You can do Myers-Briggs. You can do, one of my favorite people I follow right now, Jenny Clark, she has a leadership quiz. There are so many different quizzes out there that can identify your competencies, your skills, like what are you really good at? So I think that if you don't already know, you can get those assessments through online quizzes or ask people, what do you think I'm good at? I always share that because, I mean, as much as I love speaking,
Mm.
it really took other people to truly believe in. I mean, I believe in me, but like it's nice to hear other people like, oh, like you can do that. Like you are good at this. You need people that can tell you exactly what you're good at so that you're like, okay, like you even start believing it yourself, right? So you need people to gas you up to drive you forward.
Okay. So now that I know what I'm about, you said the next step is I have to
Communicate.
communicate those
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
and maybe even establish boundaries
Yeah.
around those things. Like, what is it that I will not tolerate in certain relationships or in certain environments in my work setting? So how does one go from, I won't speak up, I'm not advocating for myself to now, I'm standing on my business, I'm standing
Standing
on
on
business,
business. Standing on
no
business.
10 toes down on this is
Yes.
who I am. I'm not standing for any of those things. Like what's that transition? What's that pathway to get there?
Yeah, I think, especially in professional settings, it's important to have a business case. I remember I used to be so annoyed about having to have a business case for why I wanted to make a change or why I believed in a certain process. Or I think it's important to have a business case. So before you even start communicating, you have to have your receipts. Right. So before you go into a conversation with your boss about wanting a raise or wanting the max of your bonus, you have to have a list of all the things that you have done that warrants you that promotion, that raise, that, max of your bonus. You have to make sure that like I said, knowing your strengths to begin with, knowing what you've accomplished. I think it's so, so important. I tell people all the time, have a running list of all the things that you've accomplished throughout the year. You never want to get to your final performance review and you told your boss, you just like start regurgitating all the things that you've done throughout the year. You should be having consistent conversations with your people leaders about what you're up to. So I think too, it's also important to practice. If you are somebody that is, if you have difficulty addressing folks, being concise and having that confidence to speak up, it's really important to practice. Before I have a difficult conversation, I maybe pull a friend aside or maybe one of my parents and be like, hey, let's role play this. Let's role play if it goes well. Let's role play if it goes bad. And let's role play in case it completely tanks so that I can keep my stuff together while I'm in this combo. Because I think some people too, I mean, you could be in a situation where you're like, you may want to cry, right? Because maybe it's not going the way that you think it is, or maybe the reaction isn't what you thought it was going to be. But I think it's really, really important to maintain respect for yourself and also maintain respect for the other person on the other side. It's funny because recently I was in therapy. My therapist was telling me, he's like, Geralyn, if you're worried about tone in your personal relationships, start talking to the people that you love like you're speaking to your coworkers. And I was like, what? And he was like, well, just think about it. If you have automatically an underlying respect for your coworkers because you can't pop off, you can't cuss them out, you can't fight them, right? So just think about that type of tone and then apply it to other parts of your life to actively communicate in a respectful manner, but also very concise and very direct. So think about it that way. And at first, like I was a little like, I don't know if that's going to work, but it really has worked well for me. And just maintaining that level of, I guess, level-headedness before going into a difficult conversation.
Mm. You know, I've had that conversation with folks before, and the pushback that I would receive, it's like, well, I see you're able to communicate effectively or hold it together in these contexts, but around here, now all of a sudden you don't know how to communicate or you don't
You're
know how to
popping
hold
off.
it together.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
it takes so much effort to mask in those
Yes.
contexts. I know you, or we have such a good relationship that you can get unfiltered me. You get the real me. They don't have the real me. You
Yeah.
get unauthentic. I don't want to be me I don't want to be masking with my friends or in my family. That's what I have to do all day. When I get home, I just want to be. So
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on that? Like, am I putting on a front? Am I still masking and code switching now in those relationships and I can't just authentically speak and voice my concerns how I want to?
I think there's a difference between like bringing your full self and bringing your professional self to work, right? Like I truly believe people should bring their full selves to work, but that doesn't necessarily I don't think people should have to fit in, but you also know you have to assess the culture of the environment that you're in. So if you feel like okay, maybe me bringing this side of myself would not be well received, I wouldn't recommend that you do that, right? You always want to maintain you want a safe environment for yourself. So bring your best professional self. And I think that, yeah, code switching is a real thing. And like I shared with you, when George Floyd was murdered, I decided I wasn't going to, be quiet anymore. It just became more of an opportunity for me to speak up more, not necessarily change my tone or to code switch or anything, but just, hey, like bringing my ideas to the forefront and expressing my thoughts. I think there are ways you can do that professionally, but I also think that people should be able to relax at home. People absolutely should be able to relax at home, but I think that's where you don't have to be your professional self at home, right? So it's bring your full self to work, but full professional self. There are checks and balances, and I hate to say that because I want people to be like, oh, just show up as is. Yes, but also be mindful of the environment that you're in so that you can still succeed. And sometimes you have to play the game. I hate to say that, but
Mhm.
sometimes you do have to play the game.
So self-advocacy then is not just a free pass to say whatever you
No,
want,
no.
whenever you want, however you want, to whomever you want.
Yeah. No, definitely not. Definitely not. Because you also have to maintain respect. Like you can actively communicate to someone in a concise, direct way, but it may be super disrespectful. If you want to build relationships and you want people to help you along your journey, you have to have mutual respect. So just think about what it would be like if I always think about how it would be if I was on the other side of me, right? How would I want to be spoken to? And I think that's a really great practice for how you should speak to others. How would I want to be spoken to? Seems so simple. We say it all the time, right? Treat people how you would want to be treated. That's it. That's simply it.
Yeah. Okay. Are there other common barriers that you've seen for people when it comes to self-advocacy? What is standing in the way from the people that you speak with
Yeah.
from taking that step, from standing up, from using their voice, from, setting those boundaries in their life? What are the barriers, common barriers, and how do you address those?
Yeah, I think a lot of people lack confidence, right? They don't feel comfortable speaking up. I think also a lot of racialized employees fear being retaliated against. They fear retribution. I totally understand that. I have been in situations where was retaliated against, but it was those values, right? So I'm like, okay, sometimes it's extremely worth it. Like either which way, it's always going to be worth it if you're standing 10 toes down on your values, right? So if you
Mm,
lack confidence, but you have the bravery to speak up and you're retaliated against, that may not be the space for you anymore. I think people need to be clear about what is this space for me, and if it's not, actively work towards changing. I just read the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. She's like, people change when they're ready to change. And I think that if you want something different for your life, you have to be ready. And I was when I decided I wanted to leave my corporate career, I was looking for another corporate job. When I was in the corporate career that I was in, I was looking for another corporate job. But I told my friends, I said, there's nothing that this company could do to keep me here because my values don't align with this vision. So I was retaliated against, I experienced it, but I knew that I had to pivot. So when you are and when you're experiencing that, you have to pivot. I also think that there are some cultural and societal norms that may hinder people from speaking up. I mean, what if you grew up in a household where children are seen and not heard, right? You hear that sometimes, right? Like you can't speak up because, this is a grown folks business, right? Or, you're in a situation where maybe women aren't necessarily valued as much as men in your culture and you are afraid to speak up. It is really that building confidence, improving communication, fostering strong relationships that you have to tap into to be a successful self-advocate. Anybody can do it. I mean, just like I was talking about the let them theory, Mel Robbins said that every single human is capable of driving their own lives. Everyone is capable, and as much as we want to help people, we're assuming that people that aren't doing what we think that they should be doing need help, and that we should support them. But struggle is a natural part of life. And so we just have to figure out how to support folks and know what our values are, how they align to what we're doing. And if they don't align, we have to pivot no matter how long it takes. So stand 10 toes down on your values and what you want will come about.
Hmm. What happens when I don't do these things? What happens when I'm not self-advocating, when I don't really tap into my values, I don't have firm boundaries? What's the impact on an individual?
I mean, it's extremely negative impact. I mean, it limits your opportunities. It limits your opportunities. It can hinder your growth, and it can negatively impact your mental health. I mean, I can just, it's triggering to even think about how down bad I was. Even like literally a year ago, I was like, oh my God, I've never felt this bad about work. And I should not feel this way. And so I actively had to figure out like what is this pivot for me? And I think that people don't. I think that you have to get out of it. It just like it really is a just do it. You just have to do it. You have to get out of your own way. And I think that, I'm just thinking about how bad my mental health was when I was not doing well at work. I'm like, this is not worth it. This is not worth it. If you're in situations where you're overlooked over time and time again for a promotion and you know you deserve that promotion, that limits your opportunities. So if you don't speak up, you're not going to get the things that you want. Closed mouths don't get fed.
Mm.
And not just that is a thing. If you want something, you have to be able to articulate it to the right person that can help you.
What would you say to somebody who feels like, I think I advocate for myself? I raise my hand when there's need. Like, are there signs that are there for people to be like, you're not truly living in your values, or you're not raising your voice on certain things?
Yeah.
Like to kind of for those folks who might not be sure, or they feel like they are, they're just not sure. Like, am I doing it completely? Like, how do I
Yeah.
know if I'm actually, self-advocating and walking in my values?
Yeah. I think you have to know what your vision is. Like, does it feel right? Like, you have to know, does it feel good to you? I am in a space in my life right now where what I'm doing, this right here, this feels great to me. And I had no idea that I could feel this way. But I think that you see this in situations like, let's say there's a team of 10. There are probably 2 to 3 people who are actively speaking up all the time, and the direction always goes in their favor because they're the ones that are speaking up. So if you're somebody that has a bunch of ideas and you're not speaking up, that like hinders us from, creating innovative solutions. That's a situation in which maybe the team is not as collaborative as it could be because people are not speaking up. So I think that, you could negatively impact team dynamics, but also that negatively impacts profitability because if employees are not engaged and they're not motivated and they don't feel valued, seen, or heard, that's going to negatively impact customer experiences. So I truly, truly believe that people have to, it really is the values. Do your values align with your vision, and does it feel right? I think that people always experience that gut feeling, but don't act on it. Listen to your gut. You have to listen to your
Mm. Okay. What are your thoughts about, like, I guess that intersection between self-advocacy when it comes to my work life
yeah.
and my personal life? And, is there a balance there? Are these two separate things I'm advocating for? What's your viewpoint on that kind of work-life continuum?
Yeah, I think that I truly believe that self-advocacy, starts with individuals. So when I'm coaching folks, like I'm coaching them on self-advocacy, but when I'm speaking to businesses, I'm talking about how cultures of self-advocacy can drive the business. So I truly believe that individuals. Sorry, if you ask that one more time, I just want to make sure I get it right.
I guess the balance is there that intersecting
Balance.
between advocating for myself in the work versus at home and
Yeah,
with my friends and my
yeah,
personal life? Is there
yeah.
a balance? Can I be advocating in one of them and not the other? And
Yes.
do I have two different visions, two
Yeah.
different boundary? Like what to walk me through like how to manage both of these things.
Yes, yes. Thanks for repeating that. They're the same. They're literally the same. Like, and I know I keep repeating it, but the confidence, the communication, the relationships, that right, you need that in life, not just in business. If you are in a situation with a spouse maybe or a sibling, and you need to have a crucial conversation, you need confidence to have that communicate that conversation. You need to be able to articulate it in a way that that person can receive it and that you all can engage respectfully with one another, but also support. Are you practicing it with somebody that has your back? You have to make sure that, I mean, these are life lessons. So I like to focus on getting the people to believe in themselves and to advocate for themselves, and that will positively impact the business.
Mm. Okay. I just want to pause for the cause for a moment and just let people know if they have questions, they can put it in the chat. There's a Q&A function at the bottom of your window. So please feel free to submit any questions, comments that you have that you want to share with Geralyn or you want to ask. We can go ahead and do that. All right. So you've brought up confidence a
Yeah,
number of times. What is the path to building confidence, right? if
yeah,
i if i've been in a place where I haven't been using my voice, like I went all through school, I stayed quiet, I didn't advocate myself. When the teacher asked who has the answer, I wouldn't put up my hand even in those contexts.
yeah,
So I've
yeah.
been conditioned all this time, and now I'm in the workplace. How do I change all of that? Like that's hard to really alter traits that I've been building on for
Yeah,
so many years. How
yeah.
do I just change that and become this confident person?
You have to practice. And it really starts with, like I said, identifying your strengths, because when you know what you're good at and you can speak on that, like that inherently gives you a boost. Like you're like, okay, well, I can, if I thrive in, let's say you're an athlete and you don't do well speaking up, but your performance shows on the court. Like you can talk your talk all day, right? Because you know that you are a baller. Like you have to know what you are good at, what your strengths are, and then tap into that. You have to tap in, and it takes a long time. You have to figure out. Okay, like I was talking about, role playing with people. Role play in safe spaces, so, and just continue to practice so that when you are in more difficult spaces at work, that you have already built up that muscle to
Mm,
have a difficult conversation. So if you can actively do that in your personal life and practice that with siblings, parents, friends, I would even go to our friend and be like, hey, like I'm just thinking about the people that I coach. People come to me to build confidence. And so
mm,
I'm one person I'm working with right now. She lacks confidence, and we're actually creating a big bold vision for her. And she is identifying what her strengths are and what she wants her life to look like a year from now. And that I can even tell, giving her that assignment excited her, because she can now take the next 3 weeks of us, on this break, and identify what matters to her and what she believes that she's good at. So I think if you know what you're good at, you can talk on that all, you can speak on that all day.
yeah.
So identify that and then practice in small spaces. I never, Nathan, I role play all the time. All the time. I'm just thinking about, in particular, when I was actively advocating for a raise a couple years ago. And I wrote down my business case for why I believe that I wanted to raise. And I'll give you the example. So I was a manager, younger manager, and my job required a lot of executive interaction. And that was most of the job, was trying, what execs can sit here, nobody can sit here. Is this person coming? Is this person, like, it was a lot of logistics. And I think that, you know, when I realized, like that, like I said, it was not easy, but when I realized that my baby manager job was not made the same as another, and not to poo-poo on somebody that's another manager, but it was called LL6. That's the leadership level. So that's like the first level of leadership you could get at my own company. So my LL6 wasn't made the same as somebody who was managing the office in a regional office somewhere, right? So if I'm dealing with execs all day and you are, trying to figure out what inventory you have in your office and how to manage an office, like they're not made the same. And I'm not saying that your job is any less difficult,
Yeah.
but mine is a little bit more elevated. And so I had to write a business case for why I believed at my baby management job, why I should get more money.
Yeah.
And I had to have my receipts. I listed all the things I had done, all the difficult, complex issues I had to deal with, and the visibility that I had, and how I was probably working twice as many hours as somebody else who had been at my leadership level. So I
Mm.
had to write it all down. And when I provided my business case, I had practiced it already with my parents. Because my mom actually is an HR professional. So we actually work together in our family business now. She has a HR consulting firm. And so she had these conversations all day when she was in corporate,
Yeah.
right? So if we are going back and forth and we're role playing what could go well, what could go, like I said, what could go bad, what could go poorly, and then what can completely like tank the conversation, I think it's really important to get that practice in. Because even me, somebody who I see myself as a strong communicator, I'm still evolving myself. So it's really important to role play. I'm not going to stop role playing ever in my life, because I want to make sure that when I'm going out and I'm having conversations, that I'm prepared for what's coming back to me, and that I'm still able to accomplish what my goal was when I came into this combo.
So what happened when you came with your business case?
I got my
I'm I'm
raise.
I'm,
I got
I'm
my
bought
raise.
into this story now, so I need to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, so I did. So I got my raise, and I have to share this, because the person that I had to advocate to, I had known most of my career, but her husband is actually my financial planner. And I mean, obviously, people are married. I'm sure they had a discussion about me or whatever. We're friends. We're friends. And so he was actually the first person to tell me that he thinks I should coach. This was a couple of years ago. He's like, you should coach. Like people, and I did not know that. I mean, I had a professional coach myself and mentor, but I was like, you were going to pay me to talk. And but then, I mean, I wasn't experiencing imposter syndrome. I was just shocked that he was like, you can do this. And I believed in myself, like, yeah, I can do it. But then, it really took somebody else. Like I said, other people may see what you're good at and then bring it to
Mm.
your attention. I would have never thought about being a coach, but I feel like I have a natural coaching vibe. I feel like when I'm talking to my friends and want people to be better. So it really became apparent to me. So I got my raise, but because I found that success, I was able to talk to all of my other friends that were looking for raises on exactly how to get this done. Right. So now I have the playbook that y'all should use to, achieve your own goals at this
Yeah.
company. So that's what I did, is I always practice. Always practice.
Okay. Excellent. Hold on. Somebody said the chat is disabled here. Let me make sure this is working for everybody. Okay, sorry about that. Chat is enabled now. I see a lot of questions coming in here.
Great.
So let me just ask you this one
Yeah.
before I go over. Self-advocacy, we romanticize it, we speak up. This is how we create the world that we want.
Mhm.
What happens when me speaking up creates problems? Now I have a target on my back. Now, or maybe me speaking up is threatening to other people, is offensive to other people. And now people are coming after me, especially in the workplace when this is my livelihood now. I got to feed my kids, I got to pay my bills and mortgage, all of these other things. So, what about the threats and the fear associated with speaking up beyond just I believe I have the confidence. I know what my values are. I know what my skills are, but I live in this real world where bills need to get paid. My
Yeah.
family is depending on me to have this job. It's a tough job market out there right now. I
Yeah.
can't just go out and find another job that aligns with the values that I want. That's not realistic. What do I do?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great question, Nathan. I think that I know I keep talking about values, but like if that's the case, if you're in a situation where you speak up and you have a target on your back, that is not the place to be. I have experienced that myself. That's one of the reasons why I left corporate America, is because I found my passion for speaking, but also I was speaking up for things that I thought were right. And I did not, I hate to say this, but I did not care what other people thought about it. If I'm telling you this is right, this is wrong, and you're like, oh, okay, like it's fine. No, it's not fine. Like you need to make this right. And I think that there's a lack of justice a lot of times in corporate America, right? Like you can take something to HR, and I also have to say this, you all, HR is not your friend. Like I said, we have an HR consulting, my mom has an HR consulting firm, but internally, they are not your friend. Only use them to document things that have happened to you. They are acting in the best interest of the company. Do not get confused. So I think that when you feel icky on the inside at a company, you can pivot internally. I mean, if you are on a team that is not a place where you feel like you need to be, figure out a way to pivot off that team. Find more interest on another team, another skill team, and within another part of the organization. You don't have to stay in that situation. If you're like, okay, I don't want to leave this company because I'm afraid. But also think about this, Nathan. I mean, I know people that are so, and I think I was even part of this. I mean, I don't think I was ever going to retire from Ford, but I mean, yeah, well, there you go. There it is, Ford. Didn't think I was going to retire from there. But I knew that it just, I mean, as so many people are limited to thinking like this is the best I'll ever do, right? I mean, it's one of the most recognizable brands in the world. I get it. It is dope to work for a company like that. But if you're looking for a job in the Fortune 500, there are 499 other companies that you can work for, right? I mean, and I think too, people don't even consider the medium-sized businesses, the small businesses, the startups. There are opportunities for you out there. And it's interesting because now that I'm out on my own, I see that so much more clearly, that the opportunity to live a life where you love the work that you do is accessible to you. And I want people to see what I've done and leaving that behind and fully stepping into my purpose and what I'm doing and to do the same thing. To do the same thing. So if it's not feeling right where you are, you can pivot internally. But also, if you feel like, okay, this company isn't the place for me, actively work towards getting another job. You may have to hunker down and endure it for a little while, but it's all temporary. Good times are temporary as well as the bad times. So I did not think a year ago that I would be feeling as great as I do about working in general, but now I've never been happier with what I'm doing. So I think that it's key that if you feel like you can't move, pivot internally, and also find people that like you can vent to. It's important to have mentors and advocates that you can talk to that can show you the game, right? Because if like, for example, if I'm a young manager and one of my mentors has been at the company for 30 years and I express to them what's going on with me, they probably have a similar experience, right? And they can coach you on how to deal with it. Or maybe they can even help you pivot out of that job because they're a person of influence now. Or maybe they'll even grab you to be on their team. They'll save you from your environment, right? I've seen that happen time and time again, but you have to be the one to decide that you want to change, because you can sit there all day and complain about the situation, but if you're not going to drive change, I mean, it's put up or shut up. I hate to say it like that, but you either are going to do something about it or you're not. And you're not going to do something, you really can't complain. I mean, you complain, like I said, you can tell your mentors, your advocates, but at some point they're going to get tired of you not making any changes. So you have to be the one to decide that you're going to make a change.
Okay. So I want to move to some of the audience questions here.
Sure.
How do you continue to self-advocate and even pivot your delivery even when others continue to dismiss you or resist you and push back? And this could even be with people who you respect and value.
Mm-hmm. I mean, do you? You know, like if you're in a situation where you're sharing what you think and what's on your mind and these people are not responding positively, do they really have your back? You know, if you're, I think I don't know. I just feel like that's not a space that you need to be in. I personally am not in situations often where I'm speaking to my friends and I'm like, oh, I don't like the way that felt. Maybe I need to look at my friends if I don't feel comfortable speaking in certain spaces. I mean, even think about this. So friends come and go, right? Friends come and go. I've had situations where you can be ace boon coon with somebody for several years, but because at one point maybe your lives go in different directions, right? You no longer believe in the same things. That is okay. So if you're expressing how you feel to someone and they completely reject you and shut you down, that's not the person you should be expressing it to. There may be somebody else out there that wants to hear and wants to support you. So, and I spoke about this recently on a podcast, that you have to know who to go to for certain things. If you are looking for somebody to vent to, identify that person. If you're looking for somebody to coach you, identify that person. If you're looking for somebody to just keep it real with you, a friend, identify who that person is, because you have to stay whole within yourself. You have to know that what you bring to the table is super important, that you are unique and that you have value. And if somebody is diminishing that, that is not the person that you want to be expressing anything to. And I hate to say that. I mean, it could be family, right? You just said it could be people that you respect and that you love. But do you respect and you love somebody that disrespects you?
Hmm. I think the point about having different people for different reasons, I think that's a very valid point because sometimes it's like, as much as you love your parents and they love you and they want what's best for you, if
Yeah.
they are coming from a specific mindset, right? So if something it's like, oh, I'm trying to leave my job, and it's like you're gonna leave a paycheck to go into something that is unknown, right? In their mind, that could be a completely foreign idea to them and makes them very uncomfortable. It's not that they want bad for you. They want you to be comfortable. They want all of this stuff, but they're also considering, from their perspective, that's how they see things. It's like this is very risky what you're doing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, they might not have that same type of risk appetite as maybe your partner or your best friend or something like
Yes.
that, or and so it's like knowing what different people have, that it's like, okay, they're not as risky, so I know they're naturally gonna feel this way about it, right? So maybe I don't come to them right now while this idea is just a baby in my mind. I need to talk to somebody who knows how to nurture
Right.
infant ideas,
Yeah.
right? And it's like I can go to this person at a different stage when I have it more developed, or when I have all of these different thoughts figured out, and I can
Yes.
speak to those. So being able to know who in your corner has what strengths, what skill sets, what is it that I hope to achieve from those people, right? Because even though we have great relationships, we care about each other, we value, they want what's best for me, they want what's best for me. They have different perspectives of what
Different
that looks
frames of
like and how to
reference.
achieve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Different frames of reference. And I know my mom will probably kill me. I know she's on this. But like a perfect example was when I first started, I found out when I landed my corporate gig that I was potentially moving to LA. And I remember I called my mom so excited and she was crying on the phone. I was like, Mom, why are you crying? She's like, it's just so far. And I was so upset that she wasn't just, I know she was happy for me, but I was so upset that she projected her fears onto me and made me feel like, oh my God, can I go? Okay, like, is this a bad thing? Is this the right thing? But she has a different frame of reference, right? She's thinking if I go out to the West, I'm never coming home, right? She's thinking, I'm just thinking about how difficult it will be to get to me if there is an emergency, because she has a different frame of reference. And this is, I know I keep mentioning it, this was part of the let them theory, is everybody has a different frame of reference. So the way that they interact with you is based on their perspective. So if my mom thinks that if I'm moving to LA, I'm never going to come back home, that's her frame of reference. But me, I'm thinking, oh, I'm coming home every chance that I get, right? But she projected her fears onto me. But you
Mm,
have to be strong enough to discern what you're going to do. No matter if it's your parents, your spouse, your friends, you have to be good with you. At the end of
mm.
the day, you have to be good with you. But you're right. You have to have different people for different things. You have to understand their frame of reference.
Okay. What if you can't self-advocate with management? Should I leave in that situation?
Yeah, I don't want to tell people that they should leave their job. I think that if you are in a situation where this is the only option for management, then yeah, it is time to move on. So if you are in a situation where you have a terrible manager and you can't get out of that situation, you can't find another role or work for another manager, or they're not moving on anytime soon, I think it is time because people say, people leave managers and not companies. That is so true. And I don't think people just leave managers, they leave management structures. I was in a position in my last role where or my boss and I, we did not get along at all. And then I got along with her boss, but because she had to play the game, she couldn't take my side, right? She has a direct report. I'm in between the two of them, and she couldn't necessarily take my side. But it's the politics of working with other people that you have to decide, does this gonna work for me? And when I realized that the job that I was in is the job that there was nothing, having gotten the experience to speak on stage and knowing that there were very few opportunities in which I'd be able to do that again, I was like, oh, I'm out, because I found my value. I know what I'm good at. I found my strengths. And if there are no opportunities here for me to exercise those things, then it is time for me to move on. So I think that if you're in a situation where the management is not changing or the management structure is not supportive, then I definitely think you should leave. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Your mom wanted to clarify that she rarely cries, so
That's true. That's true. I'll give you that, Mom. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
all right. This is a good question here. So, given the challenges that Black women have in dating, are you as successful in your personal life as you are in your professional life?
I would say, okay, so I'm an only child. So I'm an only child. So I have always been very aware and I know what works for me and all these things. So, I mean, I would love to find love in my life, but I would say outside of finding somebody to add to what I have going on, I live a really, I love my life. I have wonderful friends. I get to travel. I get to eat. I get to speak. The work that I'm doing now does not feel like work. So I would say that I'm successful in that I feel like I'm thriving personally, but it would be nice to have love. And I think that it is the plight of the successful hyper independent Black woman is that there's so few. First of all, I mean, it's just sad, just based on the stats. There, if you want to date within our race, there are not going to be as many Black men that are as as elevated as we are, just based on the stats and the experiences that Black folk, especially Black men, face in America. So it's like, okay, well, do you want to open up? Do you want to date interracially? Totally fine, right? Some people do, some people don't. But I think that you have to decide what works for you. I've been in situations where I'm talking to someone and I feel like they're no longer adding to what I have going on, so I'm out. So, I don't ever want to be in a situation where I'm risking my mental health and my trajectory and my vision for somebody else. You have to come in and you have to add to that vision. So if you're not adding, you were trying to subtract, I don't have time. I don't have time. I will literally drop you right then, right there, so I can refocus on me. So I would love to be successful in my love life, but not yet.
All right.
Love that question.
Next question. Yeah. That was the first dating question we've had on this
Oh my
series.
God, I love
What should I do when I've repeatedly spoken up in a calm and constructive way, offering solutions and compromises, yet my direct report, who I direct report to, who is also the CEO, has stopped communicating with me. Now the COO is the one relaying misinformation to me and vice versa. The information is now toxic, taking a toll on my mental health, but I can't just quit when I have a family to support. The hours are strict, so I wouldn't even be able to take time to have interviews elsewhere. I feel so stuck.
it. First of all, I'm really sorry to hear that. I know that a lot of people experience it. And I'm not saying it's you have to create the time. I understand it being strict, but you can't be in this situation forever. It is not sustainable. It truly is not sustainable. So you're already feeling depressed and sad about it. Like you don't want to completely burn out and not be able to show up for your family, right? Because if you are coming home and you're loading that and you're unloading that onto your family, like if your family is the priority, which I know most people it is, you have to get right with you to be there for your family. So you have to take the time to prioritize getting out of there. I mean, that is so toxic, especially at that high of a level where the CEO is, sending messages like that is so petty and inappropriate. And you deserve better. Whoever asked that, you absolutely deserve better. And I mean, if you could even take, if you have lunchtime, I mean, so that now that I'm working for myself, I mean, there are times where I have so much work to do that I am pulling, I'm up really, really late. And I never pulled all-nighters or anything but like it's because I have so much work to do. So if it requires you to stay up a little bit later to apply to a job or to hop on the phone with a friend that may have a job elsewhere, also like let your friends know that you're looking because they may be able to be on the lookout for you for certain opportunities. But I think you have to create the time. I mean, you will be stuck. You will be stuck. And this is, especially being caught in between executives, it's not where you want to be. And you also are, I mean, I hate to say this, but we're disposable as employees. So you want to be able to leave on your terms. Because if they're already like, messing around, not talking to you and things like that, like that's not a good sign. So you need to identify your exit plan so that they don't, so that you're not at risk
Mm,
and on their time.
okay. Excellent. Um, okay, well, there's a couple more. So how? Chat, we have resources. Yes. We also do have those resources. So we'll be launching some career coaching services in the upcoming months. So again, if you want to subscribe, we'll keep you up to date with those types of services that
Love it.
we're able to provide. Whether that's resume support, interview support, all of those different types of things. But I think you're offering a lot of great advice where it's like sometimes the things that we want to speak up and stand up for, it doesn't mean the path is always going to be easy. Sometimes it
Yeah.
requires us to
It's
stay
never
up a little
easy.
later, do a little bit of
Yep.
extra work in order to have, right? Because even what you were saying, it's the classic entrepreneur thing where it's just like, oh, I'm going to get out of this 9 to 5 grind,
Yeah.
only to find yourself now working 9 to 9,
Way more.
right?
Yeah, working way more. Way
Nine
more.
to, right? And so it's like it's this paradox, but sometimes it's like it requires that discomfort, and we need to step
Yes.
outside of the comfort zone. We need to, as you said, change that frame of reference.
Yes.
Sometimes we think it's like, okay, in order for me to take that next step, I need da 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 da. In order for me
Yep.
to apply to jobs, these are the things that I need. Sometimes we're getting in our own way and we have
Yeah.
these mental barriers. We create these frameworks of how things should look, how we
Exactly.
should go about these things that block us when really there's no barriers, right? It's
Yes.
like on my lunch break, okay, I can be on LinkedIn and I can be applying to things. I can
Yes.
be talking to friends. I could be networking, going to different types of events, coming to like our check-ins or something, like
Yeah.
networking with people, connecting with people in the community. These are all options that we have,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
always be building these things up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always tell somebody, yeah, sorry, I was
No, go
just saying,
ahead.
I always tell people it's like, don't wait until things are bad, because like networking is something that you should always be doing. You should always be connecting
Yes.
with people even when you don't need a job. It's just knowing who's out there and building that up, because you never know when you might need somebody who's good with resumes, or somebody who knows
Yes.
somebody who works at the government, or somebody, you know what I mean? And so just
Yes.
always be networking and connecting
Yes.
and investing that, investing that
I
time.
totally agree. I totally agree. I totally agree because when I was figuring that I wanted to do something different, like, and I always share this with people. I was looking for a job for 10 months and I was in a job and I came up with nothing. But there was a greater plan for me. I could not have told you a year ago that I would be on my own speaking and consulting. That would have never happened because I wrote in my big bold vision that I wanted to work for a company whose values align with mine, and it's my own company. So just get very clear about that. And two things to share: the longer you go unseen, the smaller you become.
Mm.
So do with that with what you will. But then I saw something that at R29 Unbothered posted on Instagram the other day after the Grammys. And they were like, Kendrick said, stop playing in my face. Beyonce said, create whatever you want and stand 10 toes on it. And Doechii said, when you stop playing about you, you cannot believe how fast your life can change. And I was like, this is literally what I've been living the last year is stop letting people play in my face. I realized what I wanted to create and I stopped playing about me. And I think everybody else should be doing the same, because when you show up for yourself, you can be better for others. Like, you cannot pour from I mean, I know it's a regular saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. That is so true. How can I speak life into somebody else when I'm not focused on my own life or my own health or my physical health? You have to live it. You have to actively live it to be able to help people.
All right. Beautiful. I know we're coming up on time, so how can people contact you? Let me just throw that out there.
Yes, yes. So I just want honestly thank you everybody who did join us today. This has been awesome. You can reach me at www.geralyngaines.com, and there is a contact button on the top right of my website, and you can fill out a contact form whether you want something general, workshops, coaching, speaking, and then I will email you in 24 to 48 hours and we can set up a discovery call. You can also follow me on Instagram at Geralyn Gaines, keeping it G, and then LinkedIn as well, www.linkedin.com/Geralyn-Gaines. So yeah, I'm easily accessible.
All right, excellent. And we just dropped some links in the chat. So you can attend our next culture chat is happening on March 5th. So we have a forum in there. So go ahead and register for that. On February 19th at 8 a.m. Eastern time, we have our check-in. So once a month we have a morning check-in before work hours, and then we have an evening one the following week. So the 19th at 8 a.m. So again, this is just a space for us to come, share stories, open up. It's a great way for self-advocacy. It's a
Yeah.
spot where some people come and just say like,
Yeah.
here's what I'm wrestling with, or I'm wrestling to speak to my
Safe
boss
space.
about getting a raise, and
Yeah.
we can role play. So it's a great meetup place for that.
Love
And
it.
we also dropped the link in there for our mental health for success program. So we've partnered with psychotherapists who are providing people within our community 4 free sessions of therapy. Okay,
Wow.
so I know therapy can be expensive. That's a big barrier for a lot of people. So we're providing 4 free sessions. And then after that, if you like the therapy that you're working with, you can continue on with them for only $60 per session as opposed to $130 per session. So it's a
Wow.
huge discount for all
Amazing.
of you for being a part of this community, for investing in yourself. Like you're saying, Doji, stop playing with who I am, stop playing with me. Stop
Yes.
playing with your values. Stop playing with your mental health. Stop playing with your well-being, with your career. It's time to
Yes.
take things seriously, and we're here as a resource to help you to start being serious about these things and really leaning into these aspects of your life and to challenging that. So,
Yes.
thank you all so much for being a part of this. Geraldine, do you have any final words that you want to leave the people with?
Want to leave the people with. So my slogan is it's your voice, your power. I truly, truly believe that. Use your voice because it is your power. And that's it.